Yeah, the TryPod app, shit, years in the making. They're raising the stakes straight, bringing home the bacon. It's free.
Welcome to the TryPod. Merry Christmas, guys. As promised, I'm giving you a Puntmas edition. There are Christmas Day games in the NBA, a quintuple header, and a double header in the NFL this year. Now, all these games, these 7 matches, take place on Boxing Day over here in Australia. It's a pretty clean slate tomorrow for Christmas Day, which is fine. We can have a day off punting and following sport tomorrow, and I hope everyone has a fantastic day. But then Boxing Day, as well as the Boxing Day test, which I'm no expert on, but I was going to put the odds up and ask if anyone's got to play for the India-Australia series, which is pretty well poised too. So there's so much action on Boxing Day. I am going to run my eye over the 7 matches, doubleheader NFL, the 5 NBA. I've got about 4 plays I really like. I'm going to share a couple of tales at the end. I've got an all-time Christmas bad beat personal story, and I have a story of a Christmas miracle, which is a punting miracle, a best bet one 10 years ago to the day. And I reckon maybe the greatest comeback in any sport, honestly. And I've got a clip to show you. You won't believe it. You have to see it to believe it. So that's an advantage to people who are watching this. But I'll link it for people who just listen to this as a pod. I appreciate you being here with me. I know it's late, but I promised. And I've looked over these games. I've found some things I like. So let's get into it. Not to mention, I've done some special editions. Thanksgiving, we had a profitable run on the best bets. Then we did the NBA in-season tournament. The best bets were profitable, and college just on the weekend went 2-1. Both bets won really well with Texas and Penn State. And then the prop I gave out, the player prop, the bloke gets injured after 2 carries, and his backup has the most yards in the game. So a bit hard done by there. Let's get straight into NFL. Let's start with the NFL. I'll scooch over here. So 4 a.m., 3 a.m., depending on which side of the border you reside, on Boxing Day, it's going to be Steelers-Chiefs, and that's from Pittsburgh. But it's the Chiefs who are, what are they now, 15-1, 14-1, who are a 2.5-point favorite. They won just a couple of days ago. It's a quick turnaround. The Chiefs beat the Texans. They just have a knack, although the Chiefs actually did cover the line on that occasion. But the Chiefs have a knack of just winning by the skin of their teeth. The Chiefs have not locked up the number 1 seed, which is important in both conferences, and the Chiefs are in the AFC. You'd think that they're 2 wins clear of the Bills, they're fine. But because the Bills have the head-to-head over the Chiefs, and the Chiefs have got 2 tricky games left, Steelers on Christmas Day, followed by a divisional game. It's Denver in week 18. If the Chiefs lose both of those, the Bills have got very winnable games. The Bills would get the 1 seed. So if you look at probability, the Chiefs are only 85%. I say only because they actually can't afford to let this slip. The Chiefs want to win this and then have all the luxury to do whatever they want in terms of who they play in week 18. So there's clear motivation for the Chiefs, and the same goes for the Steelers. The Steelers can no longer get the 1 seed after losing to Baltimore, but that loss by Pittsburgh has not cost them anything in the division. The Steelers still control their own destiny because, well, they'll be 1-1 with Ravens, but they do have the other tiebreakers. I think it's conference record or division record or common opponents. The Steelers just need to match the Ravens' record. So the Ravens play after this game, but the Steelers know if they win their final 2, they will win the division. They'll get that home playoff game. The line is 2.5, as I said, Chiefs favored, but shop around. I've seen this line teetering around 3 in places as well. Obviously, you want that +3 with the Steelers if you like black and yellow, or if you're just going to back Kansas City, all they seem to do is win, lay the 2.5. Now, what's important for this one, I don't think the Steelers are on the level of the Chiefs, but TJ Watt being back from injury is a big addition. He's probably the best defensive player in the year, probably will win defensive player of the year. And then the man they've really missed the Steelers is George Pickens, who's been out for about a month, but is expected to play. And that does give them an extra real playmaker on offense. I can't play the Steelers here, although I think they may be the side. I can't blame them. The simple reason, it's very basic. I don't trust Russell Wilson. I think he's doesn't have the zip on his passes. He's not as agile as he used to be to keep plays alive and escape the pocket. He's so conservative. He doesn't stand in there anymore. All he's good for is not too many turnovers because he's so conservative, but you got the worst of both worlds against the Ravens because he had turnovers and couldn't really sling it around the field anymore. And occasionally Russ is good for that moon ball where he does just kind of put it into a contest. And if you've got wide receivers that can go and get it like Pickens can, you occasionally can get a chunk play. But I just don't really want my money on Russ. I don't trust him. And especially when the guy on the other side is Mahomes, what do we need to say about him? And then as for stopping Mahomes, while the Steelers have got a nasty defensive line, maybe the best in the league, Joey Porter Jr. getting injured against the Ravens is a big out in the secondary. So a huge game. I don't think KC is a sustainable bet. We had a great thread and discussion about that in the TryPod group. And I can understand why you would back KC to three-peat this year. But I can't. I used to love Kansas City when other people didn't realize how good they were. Now everyone knows, right? It's no secret how dominant the Chiefs are and best record in the league. It is not sustainable for me. All these close games, the final play always going their way. So I'm not going to back KC because I think it's public. I don't think you're getting any value there. But the Steelers are not as great as their record probably either. I do have a bet that I am going to endorse in this game, though. Because it is so important for the Steelers, it's important that you get the ball to your best players. And look, Pickens, question mark, because he hasn't played for a month. I'm looking in the backfield because I think the Steelers want to run the ball. They're at home. They want to keep Mahomes off the field. And the problem with running the ball with Najee Harris is he's a loafer. He is so inefficient. He's getting worse every week. He's getting less carries every week because he's not the best running back on the team. The best running back on the Steelers is Jaylen Warren. So the way I want to play Warren, who is also a threat in the passing game, is I want to play his rushing plus receiving yards. Because I hate backing a bloke over on rushing yards and you watch him catch a little screen pass and take it for 30 yards, and that doesn't count towards your rushing total. So I just want to cover my bases there. 60 plus is $1.91 for Jaylen Warren. He's got more touches in the last couple of games, definitely against the Ravens. When it's an important game, just get it to the better player. Much more dynamic, can spring the big ones, as I say, can be out there on passing downs. And I think he's going to be a major part of the game plan for the Steelers. So Jaylen Warren is my first best bet for Christmas, which, again, is on Boxing Day in Australia. Then we move to the second of the doubleheader, another beauty, and these teams have swapped dance partners. So I said KC played Houston, and KC got up by 8. Losing track of time now. We're Monday. This was literally yesterday in Australian time. So they've gone from, it's like a 3-day turnaround. They're playing Saturday night to Wednesday, or for us, Sunday to Thursday. So one possession win for the Chiefs over the Texans, while the Ravens were pretty dominant over the Steelers. A game that was 17-all, but then the Ravens really put the foot on the throat after a costly Russ turnover. Not his first of the game either. So the Texans are at home. It's the Ravens that are 5.5-point road favourites, though. The Texans, to me, look like they will cruise to the AFC South. So I suppose you could say, where's the motivation for the Texans? But in a big spotlight game, I think that Houston wants to show what they can do, and being at home as well. And the Ravens definitely want to win. I mean, if Pittsburgh has played and lost, and they are a 3-point underdog, then the Ravens would be in control of the AFC North. And even if Pittsburgh has won, the Ravens want to win this game to put the pressure on Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh might have Cincy in the final game. That's no slam dunk. So either way, I feel like clear motivation for the Ravens. I think they're a gun side, almost unstoppable offense, just with the form of Derrick Henry, the threat that Lamar is, and he's near MVP form here. And he's got some actual playmaking wide receivers as well. Got a strong offensive line. They've had some stumbles. I mean, Philadelphia is a great team, made the Ravens look ordinary. The Ravens have also been known for blowing some leads. Their record is not that flattering, but you saw more of what Baltimore is capable of in that 17-point commanding win over the Steelers. I'm not getting out in front of that Ravens team. They are still my pick to actually make the Super Bowl in the AFC, and that means I believe the Ravens could beat Kansas City in Kansas City, which is of course, where that game would be played if those sides met. Okay, so I'm not getting out in front of the Ravens. I like the Texans, but they copped another devastating injury. You already have no Stephon Diggs on this team, and then Tank Dell doing his knee while holding on to a touchdown. It was heartbreaking to watch, and that's the second year in a row, I think, a bad injury for Dell, and he's such a favorite target of Stroud, and it does mean you're running out of people to get the ball to for Houston. So this is not going to be a complicated pick either. I'm just going to play Nico Collins over 89.5 receiving yards, or 90 plus receiving yards for Collins. $1.80 on 365, that is. He's been back a few weeks. He's an absolute stud wide receiver as well. And in the dome against an unstoppable offense, Houston's going to have to let it fly. And I know that the Ravens will cover Collins, and they'll be very well aware that he's the head of the snake. I still think Collins gets double-digit targets and can catch contested balls, can break one, can get in behind the defense, especially the Ravens have a susceptible secondary. So I just think plenty of volume. I really rate CJ Stroud, and I rate Collins. And, you know, it's like those great QB wide receiver duos. You know what they're going to do. Whether you can stop it is another matter. So Nico Collins in a game that I think could be quite high scoring and obviously plenty of yards. Collins, 90-plus yards is my favorite play in that one. So I'll call that a best bet as well. Other options, I mean, Schultz at tight end probably gets a lot of targets too. You could look his direction for the Texans. And the wild card there would be Deontay Johnson, who was picked up by the Ravens. I believe they traded for him, and they kept it under wraps why he never got any game time. There was something that went on behind the scenes. They've let him go to waivers, and the Texans have actually picked up Johnson this week. So if he was to play, I think it's sort of dire straits with wide receivers that are, and a player of the ability of Johnson. I think he should be playing for the Texans. Now, that takes some targets away from Collins, perhaps, but you actually need multiple threats out there to get guys open too. So I'm just highlighting like who else Stroud could possibly get the ball to, as well as the Texans would love to get the ground game going. Mixon's had a good season, but I feel like the Ravens are stronger against that. So Collins is my favorite play. Let's move across. Thanks to those who are tuning in. Let me know if you've got any bets, if you've looked ahead to Boxing Day, to these Christmas Day games. I should say this show is brought to you by Toppy, but be aware that Toppy, their site is shut down from 11 p.m. tonight until 8 a.m. Boxing Day. So if you do want to get on some of these games, you may actually want to place those wagers tonight, because some of the games will be kicking off like early Thursday morning. Some of the bets I'm sharing are Toppy, but some are other bookies as well. I always tell you guys, best line, best price available that I can find. Let's talk NBA. Now, when we first saw the slate for NBA Christmas Day, where they try and get a bunch of marquee matchups, I have to say what stood out to me was, how is there no Oklahoma City Thunder playing Christmas Day? Where's Giannis? Where are the Bucks? And it's sort of fitting because we actually got Bucks Thunder like 3 days ago in the NBA Cup. So that's cool. We got that marquee game. Now we got 5 more. Some more appealing than others. I'm not going to spend a great deal of time on every game, but I do have a couple of my favorite picks for the NBA. But it starts early with the Knicks hosting the Spurs. The Knicks are a 9.5-point favorite. Wemby playing at Madison Square Garden. It could be worth a look. Just to me, the Knicks should be too powerful for the Spurs. I've made it pretty clear in my NBA season preview and NBA Cup, although the Knicks failed me there. And Tuller was right about the Hawks getting the upset. But I'm a big believer in the ability of the New York Knickerbockers. So I'd probably look in their direction. But when you get a spread that's nearly double digits, I don't know. For me, I actually hope that the underdog makes it a good game. And I do find the NBA pretty hard to handicap on a game-by-game basis. I love picking a team and picking them off in futures in the right moments. But game-by-game, when you play 82, and everyone shoots so many threes, anything's possible. That's my disclaimer for punting on all NBA, of course. So I don't really have a strong opinion in this one, other than let's hope like Wemby dominates in this iconic venue and then makes it a good game. Later the next game, 2nd to 5, I do have a play in this one. So this is Dallas hosting Minnesota, which was the Western Conference Finals. So there's a bit of a revenge factor for the Timberwolves. And I thought that would fuel a Timberwolves win over Dallas earlier this year when they met. But the Mavs actually got the win there. I'm really looking forward to this one again because there's no major injuries. You've got both kind of full strength. And I rate the Timberwolves a little bit better. So to be catching on your screen, you're going to see 4.5, but in fact, you can get a plus 5.5 on Sportsbet. So if you disagree with me, you like the Mavs, lay that 4.5 with Toppy. But I am sharing as a best bet Timberwolves plus $5.5 $1.90 Sportsbet because I think it's a toss-up game. I actually like the Timberwolves, understanding Mavs have home court, but in a marquee match, it can go either way. And I've got a little bit of a buffer there. You know what it's like, NBA. The game can be tight as anything, and then the fouls in the final 20 seconds can push a game beyond a margin. But a little bit of a buffer there with 5.5 points to catch with Minnesota is my favorite play of the day for the NBA. But I do have another one to share as well. Then we got some rivals in the East. Boston is hosting the Philadelphia 76ers. What makes this mildly interesting? Boston's too strong for basically anybody, but at least we get Embiid, Maxey, and George all playing a game together, which has been few and far between this season. It's a shame the rookie sensation McCain is injured, but there's still time for Philadelphia. They're a disastrous staff. Someone can confirm. In my mind, Philly was like 1-12 at one stage. Now they're 10-17. Same number of losses as 9th and 10th in the East, which gets you into a play-in game. So Philly's got time if they're good enough. The other point I want to make about this game, and I don't have a bet to share, is Jason Tatum didn't play today or yesterday. He was out with illness. Now, to me, illness, these guys are such super athletes that it's very rare it keeps them out for an extended period of time. So probably precautionary. That'd be something to monitor if you're playing Boston. You'd prefer Tatum is there. But I assume he probably is, but I thought I'd flag that since he has been out. Jerry says, ask Tristan not to shut down Christmas Day un-Australian. But you gotta let the workers have a Christmas Day too, I suppose. Look, there's barely much on to punt on Christmas Day as far as I know. So I can cut Tristan some slack there. Ryan, always good to see you, mate. Ryan says T-Wolves revenge factor and on a losing streak can only play T-Wolves. Yeah, I generally like a good team that's, trying to break a little losing streak as well. And Ryan also says, did like 76ers, but now the Celtics are off a loss. And that's true too. I don't love betting against good teams after they've lost because they don't usually lose many in a row, certainly not Boston. Let's move to another one that we should all enjoy. The Warriors host the Lakers. Steph versus LeBron. I'll never get tired of this, and you've got to enjoy it, appreciate it while we still have it, and in a primetime spot. And I'm going to make a case for the Lakers. These two teams have had varying fortunes this season, but they kind of find themselves right around the same spot, which is what was predicted going into the year, which is right around 50-50 to whether or not they're going to make the playoffs. So it is an important game. And I said before the year, I think I favor the Lakers over the Warriors. Both sides have had better days. LeBron's looked a little better since having that little recharge spell. It just seems to me that JJ he's taken the losses hard, but JJ Redick, even though the record for the Lakers is no better than when they had Ham a year ago, and in fact the Lakers a year ago were NBA Cup champions, it seems like a better team that is trying harder and is unlocking a little bit more of the potential of the role players. Anthony Davis looks better to me this year than he was a year ago. And LeBron, on big occasions, I still think he can turn it on. Not that Steph can't, but I've somewhat can see Steph can cancel out LeBron, and AD can actually be the best player on the floor. So, look, my play is just going to be Lakers plus 4.5 at $1.86. My screenshot I think the Lakers are $4.5 $83. But I noticed in the last like half hour, money's come for the Lakers too. So that line has dropped to 3.5 in places, but still on Sportsbet right now, plus 4.5. And that's my second favorite NBA play for Boxing Day. Finally, I've got a Sportsbet graphics. I'm not sure if this game was up on Toppy. It is Nuggets at Suns. Tricky one because the Nuggets and Suns actually played today in the Mile High City, and the Nuggets dominated. This game now moves to the desert. Jamal Murray and Devin Booker didn't play today, so it's tough. They're both the second most important player on their team. I think Murray's expected to play. The fact that Denver is a road favorite here suggests to me maybe Booker still isn't right. If Devin Booker's not playing as great as KD is, maybe just play KD overs his points total, or I would lay the small number with Denver. If Booker was in though, then I would grab the points with the Suns. But I would anticipate that if Devin Booker was cleared to play, that this would shift closer to a pick'em game. So with that uncertainty about those major players, hopefully both of them will play. And these teams have had some great games. It's hard for me to really steer any direction confidently. I put up the cricket odds there because I feel like most people you talk to them about Boxing Day being an extravaganza of or a smorgasbord of sport, and the first thing that comes to mind is it's the cricket, of course, the Boxing Day test at the MCG. For me, I've always loved the American sports more, so that's where my attention will be. And maybe some of you guys out there will need multi-screens because this is, some of these are going to all be going on concurrently. But the Test cricket certainly is interesting with India pulling Australia's pants down in the first test, and everyone talking about how bad the Aussies are, and then the Aussies return the favour in the second test, 1-1. Then you get a draw, you get a lot of rain in Brisbane, and so now it's 1-1-1 going into the fourth test. Australia are $1.55, $1.60 favourite. I don't have a tip. Let me know what you think. What's the draw? India $2.90 and the draw about $11. And obviously there's that many other markets you can bet into the cricket in terms of top wickets, top run scorer. Drop that in the comments if you've got anything for the cricket. Help me out there. I'm no expert on that. But that's all my handicapping for tonight. But I do want to just share a couple of tales. I just thought that'd be fitting of Christmas. I know it's late. And if you guys are like me, you've left a lot of stuff till last minute. So it's been a pretty frantic day. But hey, if you get a chance to catch this, I'll leave you with a couple of stories. One I have told before, I think many years ago, but I'll start there with one of my biggest ever bets. And this is 13 years ago, but I'll never forget it. So it was a really big bet. In my head, it was actually Christmas Day, but I looked it up, and I guess your memory gets a bit foggy. It actually was a New Year's Day, but it's close enough that I remember waking up, being on holidays and having a family event on that day, but having a massive NFL bet in play that morning. And I had played Tennessee, who had to win to make the playoffs, against Houston, who were locked in to the division, couldn't finish any higher in the rankings or standings, couldn't drop any lower. Houston's first and second choice quarterback had got injured that season, so they were going into the playoffs with their third string QB. And since this game didn't matter, that guy got rested. I think his name was Yates or something, TJ Yates. And now, who was the fourth string? Now his name escapes me. But the Houston was down to the fourth string quarterback starting in this game. And they had like a gun running back, Arian Foster. Didn't play him. It was like second string running back. They had Andre Johnson as a wide receiver, barely played him any snaps, right? So it's the second team for Houston. So what have I done? I've gone and bet Tennessee, and I've played Tennessee -1.5. Now, as you might be able to see on the screen, it's actually closer than I would have liked, but Tennessee gets a fourth quarter touchdown. They're up 7, and Tennessee has the ball with 2 minutes to go. I'm pretty much home. I'm in one of those scenarios where one more first down, I'll win my bet. Happy days. No, you're never going to get it that easy, are you? Tennessee fumbles. Houston recovers. Now up 7, and I'm laying 1.5. My instant reaction is, all right, well, worst case, Houston gets a touchdown. it's a tied game. And then I'm still 50-50, one of them will win by a field goal. And as Houston starts working the ball towards the Tennessee end zone, the thought occurs to me, and like nowadays everyone goes for two all sorts, all over the shop. But 12 years ago or 13 years ago, teams didn't go for two very often. But then it suddenly something registers in my mind, like Houston's got nothing to gain from this match that all the second string is playing. If Houston scores a touchdown, they'll go for two because they'll either win the game by one or lose by one, but either way, they won't have to play overtime where you could only potentially cop injuries. So then I realized if Houston scores a touchdown, I'm screwed. And of course, the Texans score with 14 seconds to go. Gut-wrenching, absolutely gut-wrenching. And I win by one, but of course, I laid 1.5. So I think I have told that story before because I'm quite traumatized by it. But let's end tonight on a positive note. I want to tell you a story about a college football bet that we shared on a pod. I mentioned this the other day when I did the college football playoff preview that we did a college bowls pod 10 years ago. And one of our first ever bets we shared out was the Central Michigan Chippewas. What is a Chippewa? I still don't know to this day. But we were catching plus 2.5. Now, I wake up on Christmas morning because this game was Christmas Eve in the Bahamas, this bowl game against Western Kentucky. The teams aren't really important, but Central Michigan Chippewas, you can remember them. So we're catching 2.5. I wake up, and as you may be able to see on the screen, they are down 49-14 in the fourth quarter. And it wasn't just 49-14. It was 49-14 and Western Kentucky had the ball on Central Michigan's goal line. I mean, that's 1,000,000 to 1 to come back from that. That's a 35-point lead plus whatever Western Kentucky scores on that drive. And it's a fourth quarter. There's no time to come back. But Western Kentucky misses a field goal and Central Michigan proceeds to score 5 straight touchdowns, 34 unanswered points, which gets them to 48-49. And that includes a Hail Mary touchdown from their own 20 with 1 second to go. And they actually lose the game because they choose to go for two. Speaking of going for two from my other story. And you come back, you're down 35 points with like 14 minutes to go. You come all the way back and you go for two for the win, and they didn't get it. So Central Michigan lost the game by 1 point, but covered the line. And our best bet was plus 2.5. We had plus 2.5, and we don't win our cover without the Hail Mary touchdown, which I have that clip to share with you, or at least I intended to. Let me see if I can pull it up. If not, I'm going to have to link I do have the clip. I'm kind of stalling. So I'm going to leave you with this clip of this final play. We need it to win our bet. This is after trailing 49-14 in the fourth quarter. Central Michigan have the ball on their own 20. 1 second to go, and they are wearing white.
Here we go. Last chance. What are you going to do? Cooper Rush will throw it in the air and look for a whole lot of help. Ball is caught. Oh, no! To the 15. It's lateral again. Is that still alive? That's Tyus Davis. Can he turn the corner?
I mean, that is insane. To me, that actually may be the greatest comeback in any sport in terms of likelihood. That's insane. And to actually be on that and to win despite the fact they didn't win, that's a positive story I can leave you with. So hope that you enjoyed this little bonus show, guys. And not only was that a beautiful moment, but I hope everyone has a beautiful Christmas. Enjoy your holiday period, however long you get off. And, of course, enjoy all the action on Boxing Day. Let me know what you think of my breakdowns, of my tips. Let me know if you got any of your own. Stay safe, enjoy, have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Lego.